Hi friends, today we will discuss the topic, the rise of Islam in Angola, history and influence explained. Imagine a world where the vast, rolling savannas of Angola are alive not just with the rhythm of drums and the chatter of marketplaces, but with the subtle, enduring influence of a religion that traveled thousands of miles from the deserts of Arabia. Islam in Angola, though often overlooked in global narratives, carries a rich history of trade, cultural fusion, and societal transformation that stretches back centuries. Its journey is not one of sudden conquest or abrupt change, but a gradual, intricate weaving into the tapestry of Angolan life, shaped by merchants, travelers, and the silent currents of cross-cultural exchange. To understand this influence, one must embark on a journey across time, tracing the paths of traders along the coast, examining the interactions between African kingdoms and Muslim merchants, and exploring how faith shaped daily life, governance, and cultural identity. Long before European colonizers carved the continent into colonial territories, Angola was a network of thriving kingdoms and trade routes. The Kingdom of Congo, in particular, became a focal point of interaction with foreign traders, including Arabs and North African Muslims who sailed along the western coast of Africa. These merchants brought with them not only goods such as ivory, gold, and textiles but also ideas, beliefs, and religious practices that quietly began to intertwine with local traditions. Islam did not arrive as a force of conquest in Angola as it did in North Africa. Rather, it entered as part of a complex system of trade and diplomacy. Muslim merchants often married into local families, setting the stage for the slow but steady integration of Islamic customs into Angolan society. The maritime routes along the Atlantic facilitated these exchanges. The ports of Luanda and Benguela, which would later become pivotal centers under Portuguese colonial rule, initially served as hubs for trade between African kingdoms and Muslim merchants from the Maghreb and beyond. These merchants were not just traders, they were cultural emissaries. Alongside the commercial activities, they introduced elements of Islamic law, ethical codes, and even architectural influences. Mosque-like structures began to emerge subtly in some coastal communities, although often adapted to local aesthetics and building materials. This cultural synthesis highlighted a crucial aspect of Islam's spread in Angola. It was less about domination and more about coexistence, adaptation, and influence. One of the fascinating aspects of Islam in Angola is how it interacted with pre-existing religious beliefs. Traditional African spiritual practices, with their emphasis on ancestral reverence and community rituals, coexisted with the Islamic principles of monotheism, prayer, and fasting. This created a layered spiritual environment in which local populations could incorporate Islamic practices into their existing cultural frameworks. For example, concepts of charity and communal responsibility resonated strongly with local societal values, making Islam both appealing and adaptable. Over time, certain Islamic customs, such as dietary practices and ritual prayers, were selectively adopted by communities, creating a uniquely Angolan expression of the faith that blended local and Islamic elements seamlessly. The arrival of Portuguese colonizers in the late 15th century introduced a new dynamic. As the Portuguese expanded their control over Angola, particularly through the establishment of the slave trade, Islam's role shifted. While the colonial powers sought to impose Christianity as the dominant religion, Islamic traders and enslaved Muslims brought from other parts of Africa continued to practice their faith, often in secret or in localized communities. Enslaved Muslims contributed to the cultural landscape in profound ways, preserving elements of their language, religious practices, and traditions despite the oppressive conditions of colonial rule. These communities became living repositories of Islamic knowledge, ensuring that the religion did not vanish despite the pressures of colonization. Trade remained a crucial vector for Islam's influence throughout Angola's colonial period. Even under Portuguese dominance, Muslim merchants from Northern Africa and West Africa continued to interact with Angolan traders, exchanging goods, stories, and religious ideas. The subtle influence of Islam could be seen in the linguistic borrowings, in the culinary practices, and in the moral codes that govern trade and community life. Islamic education, although often informal and clandestine, played a role in shaping local leaders and thinkers, fostering a sense of ethical governance that intertwined with traditional and colonial systems. As the 20th century approached, the dynamics of Islam in Angola began to shift once more. Independence movements, urbanization, and migration brought Muslims from other regions into Angola's cities. Mosques and community centers started to appear more visibly, providing spaces for worship, learning, and social organization. This period marked the transition from Islam as a quiet, embedded influence to a more structured, institutionalized presence within Angolan society. Communities that had maintained Islamic practices for generations found themselves able to express their faith openly, reconnecting with broader Islamic networks across Africa and the globe. Thanks for watching the video.